Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Pacific414 episode reviews. I am your host, Mike. Welcome to all of you watching on Twitch, and welcome to all of you, any of you who watch this live or after the stream on the returning Pacific414 YouTube channel. That's right. Almost a week ago, the Pacific414 YouTube channel was terminated with no explanation whatsoever. So I was persistent and I went through the proper channels to try to get the channel reinstated because, as far as I knew, I didn't violate any terms and conditions. And the email that I received Friday morning said I violated terms and conditions, which caused my YouTube channel to be terminated. So I filed an appeal and sent it in, and the appeal was denied. And in the meantime, I contacted Team YouTube on Twitter, made my case to the best of my ability, hoping that I would have my channel reinstated. I got a reply, and I'll be honest, I didn't like the answer, so I asked them again. I said, "Could you please send me a direct message letting me know what were the terms and conditions that I supposedly violated to have my channel terminated?" Because I'd like to know. You know, as far as I knew and as far as I could tell, I was following the guidelines laid out by YouTube. I had no copyright claims, no copyright strikes, no community claims or strikes against my channel. So I was going, okay, what's going on? Any video I upload, I indicate it's not for kids because I don't consider the Pacific Forum for YouTube channel for kids. I don't even consider the Pacific414 Twitch channel for kids. And that's why anyone who watches it on Twitch has to click the button indicating that they're over the age on Twitch, which I think is 14. But even so, I don't consider the Twitch channel for anyone under 18. Just like I don't consider any of my videos when you see the warning ahead of them on the Pacific414 YouTube channel for kids. So, anyways, I get a response from Team YouTube saying they will look into it and they will keep in touch. Well, Tuesday morning, I wake up, check all my email, and then I check my Gmail. And happy day. Very happy day. And I just want to say to whomever is responsible, because I'm not taking full credit. I can't take full credit. So whomever is responsible for looking at my case and allowing the channel to be brought back, finding that it did not violate any terms and conditions, whomever you are, whether it's one person, two, three, four people, five people, whomever, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it because when and I'll get into the review, I just want to get this off my chest. When I started that particular channel, that was back in December 2011, the day after I had gone to Monday Night Raw with some good friends of mine, and we got to see what was a highlight of the Slammy Award edition of Monday Night Raw, which was Kane making his return that night during the John Cena Mark Henry match, and that's the video you see on the Pacific414 YouTube channel. I mean, I had to cut it down due to possible copyright claims because of music being able to be picked up. So, I did have to cut it down from its original size. But anyways, it's the one where you hear me go, "It's Kane, it's the Big Red Machine, he's back." I mean, I'm not gonna do it that loud right now because there are members of the family who are getting ready for bed. So I'm not gonna wake them up by doing a complete reenactment. But that was the first video I had originally posted on the Pacific414 YouTube channel, and I would sporadically post other videos. One from seeing a SmackDown taping with Daniel Bryan coming to the ring, and it was a week after WrestleMania 28. And again, it was one of the same group of friends that I went to the Monday Night Raw taping with. And during that segment, it was Daniel Bryan and AJ Lee, and they were part of Piper's Pit with Roddy Piper. Sorry about that. And that was one of the videos I originally had on the channel. And then, of course, I posted one the Monday Night Raw the night after WrestleMania 29. So one of them was Dolph Ziggler cashing in the Money in the Bank against Alberto Del Rio and winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and then also The Undertaker. I might repost those back up eventually, just like I have some episodes of the Box Score that I'm going to post up, but those will probably go on to a completely different channel, which I already had lined up. So that's probably where those videos will end up going. But anyways, I started doing those videos, and then it was dormant for a while because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the channel. I wasn't sure at all, to be honest with you. I kept mulling different ideas, and then one thing I I started doing more and more frequently on my personal Facebook page was posting the results of the Cub game, and if I was watching a Chicago Cubs game, I actually commented about what's going on and post it. Let people know what I thought of it. And then I started seeing other fans, doing their own reactions to their own teams, whether it be Cubs or any other teams, doing their own reactions, and I started thinking, I could do that. Maybe not as well as some of these other people, but I can do it. So I started doing it last year. And the first one was opening day when the Cubs opened the season at the ballpark in Arlington against the Rangers last March of last year, that is, and did that first episode. Unfortunately, can't recover that episode because I was on a hard drive that crashed on me. So, that's beside the point. But I started doing one after another. That time would allow because work and everything. So I started doing more and more and more. And I would post other videos onto the channel too, not all baseball ones, although a couple of videos from when I went to see the Cubs play the Baltimore Orioles now 3 years ago in Baltimore, and I posted a couple of videos from that trip. And I was really liking what I was doing. I don't consider myself the best when it comes to doing reviews or reactions, but I I try and I do what I can. And so then last November, you get news about Copa. You know how if you don't mark your video as not for kids, and is it for kids or should it be restricted? Have an age restriction. Your channel could be subject to be taken down, and you could be facing a pretty hefty fine depending on which videos. And I did a knee jerk reaction to it. I shut down the channel, and all those videos that were up, you know, most of them I had backed up, and unfortunately, like I said, some of them were lost on that very same hard drive when that hard drive crashed that I had them backed up on. So, I thought, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. But then there's that part of me that goes, why are you stopping? Why, why are you stopping doing something that you enjoy? You know, giving a Chicago Cubs recap, giving your honest opinion to what's going on. Just like I try to do for this show, Pacific 414 episode review. I try to give you my honest, reaction, my honest opinion of what I actually thought of the episode. Now, like you saw in the disclaimer before I came on, you know, that view can change over a period of time. There could be an episode that I absolutely despise viewing it right now. And then years later, months later, weeks later, I could look at that episode and see something that I didn't see before and go, okay, it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be. So, you know, I said, restart the channel. And that's what I did. So, to wake up to that email last Friday and see that the channel had been terminated, I was thinking, all right, what do I do? Do I take a chance and create a new channel and try to keep it going, or do I just make it, as far as the box score is concerned, just for friends and family and anyone who just might be interested in watching a fan react to his team win a game or lose a game? I love doing this. I really do. I love doing this. I know I'm not the best. I know, for those of you on Twitch, I don't always talk a lot. I know you don't see my face hardly at all. And, doing something like this gives you a chance to see my face, to see what this guy looks like. But, the reason why I don't like having my face shown while I'm playing a game on a live stream, because I don't want you guys to see, say this remote's the controller. See me go like this. Hey, we all do it. I mean, I know we all do it. But you guys don't need to see that. You're here to see sometimes good gameplay and most of the time horrible gameplay. I'm going to admit that. So, now that I've gotten that off my chest and gotten it out there, I just want to say what I thought of today's episode of Star Trek Discovery, Episode 5, Die Trying. So, what did I think of this episode? Well, this is going back to the Cubs, going back to the box score. There are some games where I am just shaking my head saying, you guys are professional ball players and you can't hit the ball worth squat. And you're losing this game. And then you see a game where you don't believe it. Your eyes, they're looking at the screen, looking at how the team's playing and going, oh my gosh, there's a major league team out there. Hey everyone, there's a major league team out there. And they're winning. That's what this episode of Discovery felt like. Yeah, yes. You still had, things that I typically associate with Discovery, with, some of the bad plot choices and everything, and, certain people having to save the day, but you actually saw an episode of Discovery, just like you would actually see a Cub game where they would play like a major league team. This episode of Discovery actually felt like an episode of Star Trek. And, I'm probably going to be missing so many different points in this review. But this episode actually felt like an episode of Star Trek. And, last week I said, if you don't want me to do bad reviews of, Star Trek Discovery, then give me an episode, give me writers who know how to write. Give me compelling stories, characters that I can care about. I mean, yeah, there's some characters I still don't care for, with this just being one episode, but with the story here in episode 5, Died Trying, it was actually an episode where I'm like, okay, okay, this one, this was pretty decent. It's it was good, okay? It was more than decent. It was good. And part of it was, seeing, Saru and Michael Burnham, you know, having a one-on-one conversation. And the two of them are discussing, how they feel about meeting up with Starfleet, the Federation. And, how's it going to feel to encounter this version of Starfleet compared to the one that they left back in the 23rd century? And then it goes on to the crew. The crew's nervous too, but the crew's also excited. So they approach the coordinates. Starfleet headquarters is cloaked for some reason. Maybe it has something to do with the burn. I don't know, but it kind of made me think that, Starfleet was more like Section 31 by this time, although it, it, this is still the Trek fan in me saying, but that's not the impression I got, and maybe I'll have to rewatch Enterprise to get a different impression. But it's not the impression I got when Daniels would take Captain Archer to the future, and you know, also in that hologram where they're discussing the timeline and everything. It's not the impression I was getting about the 30th century or 29th century, depending on how you look at it, as far as Enterprise, and then of course there was Voyager. So they go into this cloaked area, and it reveals this. I'm gonna say it's a new version of Space Dock, and you see all different types of ships, and the navigator of Discovery. I'm still not versed on the characters' names, so I do apologize about that. But the navigator at one point, as they're going into this space dock, says, "Is that a new Constitution class?" And the ship that they show on the screen, I'm thinking, well, I wouldn't believe that that ship would be Constitution class, because you know we know what the Constitution class looks like. It would be its own class of starship. So I'm surprised that you know even though the sensors on Discovery would be 1,000 years old compared to the technology that it's encountering, that the sensor still wouldn't be able to pick up a transponder signal from those ships, and it would be able to give you the information saying, you know, what the name of the ship was and what class it was and everything. But that's a small thing. But one of the things that you see as Discovery's pulling into the space dock is, you see the crew gathering into all the windows to look out and see all the different types of ships that they're looking at. And you see a ship that has a rainforest in it. So it's an arboretum. It's a large scale arboretum. And then one of the things you see is USS Voyager. And this particular USS Voyager is J. And all I kept thinking was, when I heard USS Voyager, is it better have the right registry number, which is NCC 74656. And I look on the screen, I go, okay. So just like there was an Enterprise J in Enterprise, when Captain Archer went to the future with Daniels at one point, and they were discussing the Xindi, we find out that there is a USS Voyager J. So, you know, that was kind of a nice homage to Voyager. I mean, it's not my least favorite series. It's not my favorite series. I've already said which one was my favorite series, which is DS9. Even though it was next gen that got me hooked, DS9 became my favorite series of all Trek, and it's still my favorite series of all Trek. So, they're going through, and auto navigation takes over, and the ship docks. They get a communication from Starfleet headquarters, and once everything's cleared, it's Saru and Michael Burnham and Adine Tull who beam over to Starfleet headquarters. Once they're cleared, they meet a new admiral, and you know they want to know everything that they can know about what's left of the Federation, what's left of Starfleet, and of course we find out some tidbits that Kaminar, where Saru's from, joined the Federation and the period of time that passed for Discovery, and also the Barzans, who we first met in the Next Generation in season 3. I'm forgetting the episode, but it's the one with the two Ferengi and them getting trapped in the Delta Quadrant with the Barzan wormhole. But anyways, you find out that they joined the Federation, and you know, some people might be saying, "Well, okay, they're from non-Federation worlds. How did they get into Starfleet?" By probably doing exactly what Nog had to do: get a letter of recommendation from a senior officer, just like Nog did when he went to Captain Sisko's office and said that, like his father, he's not good when it comes to working a deal and getting profit. His father was an engineer. Nog was an engineer in his own right, especially when he learned from Chief O'Brien, but he still had to get a letter of recommendation from Captain Sisko. And he eventually did. And yes, I know I just made an error. It was Commander Sisko at the time who gave him that recommendation. But we saw what happened. From that point on, Nog became a cadet. Nog came back to DS9. It was an integral part of the war. We saw Siege on AR 558, and that's where Nog got his leg shot and had to get an artificial limb. And of course, he spent a lot of time in the holosuite with Vic Fontaine, rehabbing, and you know, just understanding at the end of that episode that he had to, get back into Starfleet, but it was his choice. So, non-Starfleet, you know, Federation role officers do exist. They just have to get a lot of recommendation. But anyways, we're told that there are very few ships available, and we see that there is a species that's very sick because of some plants they ate. They're called the kiwa, and they're very sick from eating these plants, and unfortunately there's no viable cure that they can get to in time because of the limited supply of dilithium and everything else that's going on in the 31st century. And we get a mention of the Orions and Andorians, and they're basically pirates at this point. And of course, if you've played Star Trek Online, which if you're watching this on the Twitch channel, that I do play Star Trek Online, especially with TKO on Friday nights. And the storyline of Star Trek Online, where the Andorians are no longer a part of the Federation, yet you still have Andorians serving in Starfleet because some of them were already in Starfleet, but some of them were also given the choice. You can stay, or you can leave and help Andoria, do what they need to do. And there were some, like Captain Sean, commanding officer of the USS Enterprise F, at least in the game. I know the game's not canon, but you know, it was what we had for Star Trek for a long time before Discovery happened, and he became the captain of the Enterprise F. So, anyways, Michael Burnham says, we can help find a cure for these people. Let us see where these people have been, and we can help you guys. And of course, the chief of Starfleet says, no, we've already got all the data from their ship of where they've been, and we're analyzing it now, and we'll take control. And Burnham mentions the spore drive, and you know, the head of Starfleet's still not convinced that he should let Discovery go along. So then, what ends up happening is Saru volunteers to stay behind so that Commander Burnham can take Discovery to find. And I know I keep hitting the mic. I'm sorry. I gotta find a different position to put it so I don't keep hitting it, whether it's in gameplay videos or episode reviews. But anyways, Saru, you know, tries to convince the head of Starfleet to let Michael Burnham take Discovery to find a cure because there's a ship that has seeds that can help find a cure for this plant that these aliens consumed. And of course, the Admiral's hesitant at first, or, head of Starfleet, but it looked like he was the rank of Admiral. And then he eventually gives in, but on the condition that Saru has to stay behind, and he has 3 observers go on to Discovery and make sure that Discovery gets there to this ship that has it and then comes back. Well, Michael, along with these other Starfleet officers, at least her at Starfleet, go on to Discovery. She tells them they better hold on to something as they make the jump to Spore Drive, because one of the things they also wanted to do before this mission even got away was they wanted to break up the crew and they wanted to retrofit Discovery to be up to their standards. And Michael Burnham pleads a case saying, if you break up this crew, there's no telling what it's going to do to some of the crew members because the ship is all they have. So, anyways, get back to with them being on the ship. They make the jump with the spore drive and they get to their destination. There's a nebula there that's making it difficult to navigate, and Detner is doing the best she's got. The navigators even encouraging her after Detner gets discouraged because she's still suffering the repercussions of the second episode of the season. And they do eventually find the Keeley and they get on board. But before they get on board, Commander Nam, the security officer who transferred over onto Discovery from Enterprise last season, is pleased because being in Barzan, she doesn't have to worry about wearing her breathing apparatus once she gets over to that ship, since it's adjusted to the atmosphere that's on Barzan. So, they beam over there. They start looking around, poking around, seeing what they can discover, and they eventually find 3 stasis pods. And unfortunately, the individuals inside the stasis pods have passed on. But Nam, she looks through the records and she sees a holographic representation of the Doctor who was on board that ship. And we come to learn that the 3 individuals who were in the stasis pods were his wife and 2 daughters. And he's talking about something that's going on, how they're dying. And of course, Nam, rewinds it, pauses it, and she's trying to figure out why is he going in and out of this reality. Well, long story short, they find out that there was a burst from a nearby star which interfered with the transporter beam, so he's phasing in and out of reality, and unfortunately hasn't come to terms with the fact that his family has died. So once they had discovered that he was affected by this burst from a star, which ended up killing his family, unfortunately, due to the radiation, they try to come up with a plan. And that's where we go back to Discovery and we see the lieutenant who came with Michael Burnham and the Discovery crew on this mission. She's in engineering, and of course, it's Tilly Stamets and Jet Reno who are in engineering, and she comments on how, and she being the security officer, I didn't write down any names, and maybe I'll start doing it, maybe I won't. But she starts mentioning how the fact that they're not being very professional, and they all mention, well, this is how we work, this is how we do things on this ship. We're a dysfunctional crew. And I even mentioned that they're a dysfunctional family in my last episode review. But, anyways, they do discover about the sunburst and they start to come up with a way to bring the doctor that's on this particular starship back into reality. So, they give Michael the information saying that he's not going to like it, but in order to get these seeds that they need to make a cure to cure the aliens who are now currently dying, they need his access code because Michael Burnham tries using her voice for the access code, but it's not working because it's not the voice that it's set to unlock the security protocols. So, long story short, they managed to get this doctor out of phase, and they try to talk to him and tell him that we need your help to cure other people. Other people are in trouble, and we need these seeds. And of course, Nam tries to talk to him first, and Dr. Culver says to Michael Burnham that, Nam's not going to get through to her because she's being soft on her, which I thought, I had a different perspective on that. I was thinking, well, I can understand where Nam was going because, you know, they're Benzars, and maybe seeing, one of your own people, you'd be more upfront to talking to them than you would, a human, you know, even though, they're all Starfleet officers, talking to someone who understands you a little bit more, understands the conditions that, are on the ship. And so, they quickly say that it's not working between Nam and this doctor. So Michael Burnham intervenes and says that we need your help to get the seeds. And of course, he does eventually help. He gives, the access code, which is the name of his two daughters. And I've forgotten the name of the two daughters, but it was the name of two daughters, which is also the name of two moons in the Benzar system. So they get the seeds and they start working on a cure, but the doctor's still not coming to terms that his family's dead. But you know, eventually, Michael Burnham goes and talks to him, and says, "You have to leave because if you don't leave, you're gonna die from the same radiation poisoning that your family died from." So they debate back and forth a little bit, not greatly, but just a little bit on you know who's going to stay because this doctor doesn't want to leave his family behind. So Nam says, "I'll stay, and this way I can get back home again." And of course, they lay down the seeds, and no pun intended. And again, sorry for hitting the mic, but no pun intended that will eventually make a return. So, she agrees to stay behind. They beam off the ship. They return to Federation Starfleet headquarters. The Admiral is actually pleased with the work they've done, and Saru and Commander Burnham are able to convince the head of Starfleet to let the crew of Discovery stay together. And, you know, and that plot point, Saru and Burnham, still have their questions, but one of the main questions that they ask, and they being Michael Burnham, is that, they still want to know if Starfleet even has any idea who caused the burn. Which is going to lead me to this next part of the episode, which was the B story. And in this B story, it's centered around Georgiou and one of the other intelligence officers on board Federation headquarters. And of course, everyone at one point was being interrogated in this episode by these holograms. And Georgiou, or Giorgio, was also being interrogated by these holograms, but she was blinking a lot, which apparently affects the programming of holograms. Now, this is the first I've ever heard of it as far as Star Trek's concerned, but I would think that by the 31st century, perhaps, excuse me, maybe, maybe not, maybe I'm not even looking at this the way I should be looking at this, but by 900 years into the future, there should be holograms that are even, well, not even more advanced. They would be more advanced than any of the holograms we've ever encountered in Star Trek. So, Georgiou keeps blinking, and it basically phases the holograms out, and the holograms aren't able to deal with her constant blinking because she questions the fact that they can't blink. And of course, this other security head, I got a feeling he's from Section 31. But he starts going over everything that they know about Giorgio, her being from the mirror universe, and how, the mirror universe is no longer around and it collapsed some 500 years ago. But I'm thinking, okay, uh, if it collapsed 500 years ago, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but does anybody remember, and again, I could be wrong, in the seventh season of Deep Space Nine, there was one final Mirror Universe episode where Rom and Quark had to go into the Mirror Universe to rescue Grand Negasek, and as far as we could tell, the Terran Empire, was still fending off the Alliance attacks on Terok Nor. That's what DS9 was originally called, in both the Prime universe and also the Mirror universe. But they're still able to fend it off, and there's even a scene where Rom sees the Mirror universe of Lita and says hi to her, and even mentions that they're married. And of course, the Mirror universe Lita scoffs at the idea, and kisses Esri at the end. But you know, I would have thought that maybe the Mirror Universe would have taken the lessons from Spock of the Mirror Universe and their encounters with Cisco, and maybe formed their own federation. So maybe that's what they're alluding to. I know they said that the distances between both universes is much greater now, and again going back saying that the Terran Empire collapsed. Well, Of course, it collapsed. It had collapsed shortly after the Kirk that we know left the mirror universe. Shortly after the Spock of that universe mind melded with him. So, again, I could be wrong, but that would be more than 500 years ago. But hey, I'm just nitpicking here. But anyways, you know, these two, being Giorgio and the agent, have their little back and forth. There's even a part where the agent takes off his comm badge, flips it on the table, and Giorgio picks it up and breaks it because she was admiring it, but she's also looking at the main part of the comm badge that she's able to get out of its casing. And of course, there's you know illusions to Section 31. So that's what made me think that this agent's a Section 31 agent. And long story short, back on Discovery, one of the things that ties that with one of the final scenes of the episode is the fact that Georgiou's even asked, "Why are you even with a Starfleet crew if you don't believe in Starfleet values?" And Georgiou says, "Because somebody cares about me." And we all know who it is. We all know that it's Commander Burnham who cares about her because she even says so when she sees Philippa in the corridor, and Philippa's just standing there, still stiff as a statue. And you know, Michael Burnham tries to get her attention, and then eventually, Georgiou stops playing her game, and Michael Burnham even says, "We care about you. I care about you." And Georgiou says, "Why would you even care about me?" So one of the things that we last see before the episode ends is that they talk about the period before the Renaissance when it was the Dark Ages, and everybody was all doom and gloom, and there was you know light being brought up, and I forget the painter's name, but you know that particular painter helped bring light to the subject and gave people hope back then. And they basically say that Discovery needs to be that beacon of hope for all 36 planets, I believe it was, of the Federation, and help those 36 Federation member worlds find the other ones who had been long separated from the Federation after the burn and piece it all back together once again. And like I said in my episode review last week, I have a feeling they're gonna drag this out. They're gonna, have it go through this season, but also go into next season, since we've already heard that season 4 is already going into production. So we shall see. This is only episode 5 of the season. I'm not sure how many episodes there are of the season. I don't know if it's 10. I don't know if it's 11, 12, 13. I don't know. I didn't read up on how many episodes that were ordered for the season, but we shall see. So, yes, there were still some emotional cry moments of this episode, soap opera moments of this episode, especially between Nam and Burnham, and, you know, Burnham and Georgiou. But again, I guess that's what I'm gonna be expecting from this series here on out. And again, I did like this episode more than I liked last week's episode. This was an episode that felt more like Star Trek. And, it was interesting to even look at the Voyager J and see that it did have a little bit of the Intrepid class Voyager in it. So that was nice. Now, will we encounter, say, a descendant of the Enterprise? Or how about the Defiant? I mean, one thing I'd like to see, and yes, it's the Deep Space Nine fan in me, it's not necessarily Deep Space Nine, because I don't know that it would necessarily be around by that time, but I would like to find out what happened to Bajor. And, you know, I still don't think that any current Star Trek series should touch the idea of bringing back Cisco. I think, you leave Deep Space Nine's ending the way it is. Maybe they can at some point allude to when Cisco came back at one point. But this is just me. I feel that if any return of Cisco is to be done, because it has been something that's been rumored that they're trying to get Avery Brooks to come back as Captain Cisco, I think it should be handled by a writer from Deep Space Nine, or writers, or at least they should be consulted as to, what would Cisco do in this situation. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. I I I can't figure out what this series or even Picard's going to do at this point. But at least for one episode, it was an episode that felt like Star Trek, and that I appreciate a lot. I do. I appreciate it a lot, and tell you what I appreciate more. Of course, I know I've already said that, but I appreciate the fact that whomever went through and said that I didn't violate any terms and conditions and reinstated the Pacific414 YouTube channel, because I'm not taking full credit. I know I said that at the beginning, but again, I'm not taking full credit. Thank you very much, whomever you are. I really, really do appreciate it, and I appreciate being able to watch an episode of Star Trek, a franchise that I do enjoy, just like I still enjoy Star Wars, even though I didn't like The Rise of Skywalker all that much, and I didn't like The Last Jedi all that much. I still like Star Wars. I'm not going to deny that. And it's just that I want to see good storytelling. I want to see characters that I care about, and I want to be able to go back into whatever world this particular TV show takes place in, whatever world this particular movie takes place in, and you know, just be invested in it. Be invested in it as a whole. That's what I want, and I can say that I got some of that in today's episode. I tried, so I appreciate that. I I'm not gonna say that after this episode that you're gonna see a lot of episode reviews like this where I'm not ranting and cursing and raving because I didn't like the episode. I'm not making that promise because I can't make that promise. But I do appreciate a good episode when I see it. Like I said, it wasn't perfect, but it was a good episode that actually felt like Star Trek. So thank you very much. And thank you to anyone who's watching this right now. I know I haven't seen any comments, but anyone who comes to these live streams, don't be afraid to leave a comment. Even if you want to tell me, Mike, get on topic, you know, tell me that, because I need that from time to time. I need to be told to get back on topic from time to time. But I also want you all to know that you can always leave a comment, whether it be on the YouTube channel, the Twitch channel. Always leave a comment when I'm online, even if it's just go, "Hey, Mike, good to see you tonight." I'll respond because I enjoy interacting, and my friends who are on Twitch, they can tell you, we start getting into a conversation about different subject matters, we can go on for hours. And you've all heard TKO and myself on Friday Night Frontiers and how we feel about current Star Trek, but You know, I am gonna let him know that this was a good episode. He's gonna think I lost it, but it is what it is, right? And that's what this was. This was a good episode. Not perfect, but it was good. Not gonna say it was great, not gonna say it was excellent, but it was good. And if you agree with me, fine. Disagree with me, fine. We all have different opinions. And we're all allowed to express those opinions. My opinion may not be right in your view, your opinion may not be right in my view, but we all have opinions. And this is my review, my opinion on this episode. It was a good episode. So if you have CBS All Access and you want to check out a good episode of Star Trek, then do so. I recommend it. Die Trying was a good episode. And that's all I'm going to say. So, for the moment, if you'd like, and you don't have to, but I would appreciate it if you did. If you'd like, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you're watching on Twitch, give this channel a follow. If you are watching on YouTube, give this channel a like, give this channel a chance, and subscribe to the Pacific414 YouTube channel. Follow the Pacific414 Twitch channel because I want to build a community where we can all talk about various things that, either I've posted on my channels or, you just want to talk about something. We can talk. If you're happy about something, you just want to share it with somebody, by all means, then let's talk. Because, that's one of the lessons of Star Trek. In order to understand people, you have to create a dialogue. You may not agree with everything they say, they may not agree with everything you say, but at least create a dialogue, at least create an understanding between you. Because we all know that the Federation and Klingons didn't always see eye to eye. And eventually they do become allies, not once, but twice. So, that brings another question of mine, and I know I've already done this, I think it was episode 1 or episode 2 where I mentioned it, but, episode 1 and 2 of Discovery, those reviews were all one episode. But you think that maybe the Klingons eventually join the Federation, or are they still their own separate entity? That's a good question. Wonder if we'll ever find out. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you to everyone who's stopped by and watched even a few seconds of this video, both the Twitch and YouTube channel. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you, non-subscribers and subscribers alike. So thank you all very much. I will see you all later, and have a good rest of your Thursday. And one more and here. Okay, maybe not one more and, but tomorrow night, also at 7 o'clock, and I'm also going to put it on the Twitch channel as well. I'm going to have my episode review of episode 3 of season 2 of Mandalorian. So tune in for that if you like. And then at 9 o'clock on the Twitch channel, it's going to be another episode of Friday Night Frontiers with TKO and myself. So if you'd like to tune into that, please do. Until tomorrow night, this has been Mike for Pacific414 episode reviews, live on the Pacific414 YouTube and Twitch channels. Signing off. Take care.